Good morning. Up until like a second ago, I was alone, so it's nice to see somebody here. Good morning. We, believe it or not, and you might not believe it. First of all, my tea broke, so all my tea leaves are just floating. But second of all, this is our last. Good morning, Maya. This is our last lesson. This is the end of chapter 9 as far as we're concerned because we, Algebra 2 team, decided to chop it down a little bit to make it more manageable for online learning. So we're going to finish graphing sine and cosine. In our Algebra 2 classes normally, we would also do graphing tangent, cotangent, cosecant, secant. We would graph all those other four, but we decided to cut that out, and so we just really wanted you to be super good at graphing sine and cosine. So that's what we're doing. We did it for 3 whole days. This is our 3rd day of this. That's why it's lesson C. I have some cool graphics to show you, like visually, so that way hopefully that'll help. Good morning, Lauren. And then in the next 2 weeks, so this lesson drops Monday the 5th, and then the next Monday after that, which is starting to be June, we are reviewing, quiz, done, all done. And if you want that quiz early and you can show me your review, I'm okay, we'll give you a little early. Okay, so that's what we're doing today. We're graphing sine and cosine. I have my notebook that I just padded that you can't see. But first, let me recap really quick what we did last week, because it'll help you. Bloop. Alright, great. So this is what we did last week. We had, to adjust without spilling my tea. Okay, so we have sine and cosine. We know they're wiggly. I'm sure you will, Lauren. Once you're done, you know. They're all wiggles. It's sinusoidal. It repeats itself. It does this thing. It's the moon, it's the planets, it's the ocean, it's all the things. Anything that repeats itself does this. Okay, so last week what we talked about was the very first number makes it stretched out, right? And if it was 1, like it normally is, it would just look like this. And if it's negative, it's stretched out, but it gets flipped over. So this is our cosine parent function right here. Starts at 1, goes down. And then the other thing we talked about last week was that k, the very last number, makes it go up and down. So I'm hoping that you have those two ideas firmly planted before we move on. But watch this, watch. Ah, that's so trippy, I don't like it. So that's both the things at once. Okay, so now we're stepping it up. This is the pivotal moment right here. Let me turn some things off. Okay, so I'm introducing B and H. Okay, so first of all, still K goes up and down. I'm going to lock it in at 0 for a little bit. A stretches it out. Nothing's changed. I'm just adding more things. So this is the parent function. This is the briefest little parent function. And then down here what I have is this highlights 1 period. Okay, that's 1 cycle. And then this highlights how many periods are between here and 2 pi. So this one has 1, 2, and like 0.75. Technically it's 2.74 because that's the number that's up here. I don't want that. So let's watch what happens when I change B. Okay. So B is getting smaller and it's stretching out this way. So B is basically a horizontal stretch, which we've been doing this whole time. It actually hasn't changed at all. And if I make B bigger, I get more wiggles. It goes wee. And so let's say that I just leave it at a nice number. Ooh, you know what I didn't do is I didn't save my edits. Ugh, negative 5 to 5. I made them pi just to see what it would look like. Okay. All right, so let's say it's a nice number, like 2. Okay. Here's how I know it's 2. If I highlight this section right here, that's one cycle. There are 2 cycles by the time we get to 2 pi. I'm hoping that it's like heckin' pouring outside. I'm hoping that my highlighting on this helps you see that. So this is the period length, is 2 pi. No, the period length is pi. And there's 2 of the cycles between 0 and 2 pi. There's 2 of them. Because there's this one, and then there's this one. There's 2 of them. If I made it 3, there's 3. I just did 2 fingers. There's 3. There's 1, 2, 3. So that's how the 3 comes into play. Notice down here that I had to modify this to say 2 pi divided by b to show you just the green section, because that's my period length. That's one little cycle that I copy paste along. That's my one period length. Naturally, I put away my my notepad of the problems that we're going to do. Okay, so b changes that. Now, I'm going to turn that off because I also want to show you what h does. So let's just put b back to normal. Let's make b 1. This is a normal cycle. This is our standard cosine graph. And let's move h and see what happens. Do you want to guess really quick? If I was super cool, I would have some sort of like input here where you had to guess what h does. I'm not that cool. Maybe one day. All right, let's do it. I'm going to make h bigger. Okay, it's moving this way. And I'm going to make h smaller. Now here's the key people are going to totally forget. This is just like everything else we've done this entire year. H is backwards. Because I knew it was backwards, so I already put the minus in there. But if we think about it like you normally do, and I say plus, then I go left when it gets bigger, right when it gets smaller. So this looks like a really gross number. This is actually negative pi. So it would be like x minus pi right here. And so what happened was the top of my graph, which is cosine, which is usually right here, shifted over by pi to the right. Okay. Now, the fun part about these cyclical things is that it actually also technically moved to the left by pi because it repeats itself every 2 pi. But if I went to like a half of a pi, there we go, there's half of a pi. See how the top shifted to the right when it's an x minus pi over 2. To the right. So these are backwards like normal. I turned this off because it still shows the original. I probably could have modified it to be including the h, but it's fine. Okay, so h is normally 0, b is normally 1, k is normally 0, and a is normally 1. So that's usually how it goes. So, one more time. I'm going to do them in order. Move up. There we go. A and then b and then h and then k. Okay, great. So A stretches it out. So close. Not really close enough. B makes more of them. Okay. We go back to 1. H moves it left and right. I'm really bad at this game. And then K moves it up and down. Oh, you want me to repeat that, you say? You don't say that, but you probably do at home. Let's write it in our notes. Let's do the thing. Okay. Or do I need my notes out? Let's do this version real quick so that way you can see and I can do some more playing. But I wanted to show you that whole thing. Great. So this is 9.4C because what we did was we talked about the parts of a graph, the anatomy, and then we talked about moving it and stretching it out. And then now we're doing it the hardest way, which is translating the wiggles and moving them around. And then I called this period and phase shift. And honestly, it's period and phase shift and amplitude and midline. I can't talk and write. Look at that S. And I don't know, I'm on page 60. It's all of the things because what we're doing is we are merging them all together. I just did 2 parts at a time, but we're piling it all on. We're piling. So let's write out the whole thing. So y equals a, I'm going to say sine right here, and then b x minus h plus k. I'm going to just point out that this b value is outside of the h value. In pre-calculus, or in harder version of Algebra 2, like honors, we have to like undistribute this every now and again to factor it out. But I'm going to be so nice to you and give it to you already factored if it's going to be a problem. So don't stress out about these parentheses. Just know that b is outside of the x minus h, but inside the sign. Okay, so far what we know is that a is amplitude, which is the height. B is the number of cycles. Wow, cycles. Between 0 and 2 pi. H is called a phase shift. And that's left and right. I can't do this. I can't write today. It's a weird day. I feel like it's not the right day for me to be teaching you things. And K is up and down. Oh, that's a midline. Gross. And that works the exact same if it was a cosine. So if it says sine or if it says cosine, it's the exact same thing. And then remember that we have this thing for the period length. So the period is 2 pi divided by our value for b. I feel like it's Tuesday or Thursday or something. I had advisory this morning because it's Wednesday when I'm recording this. But yeah, I just don't know what day it is. I don't know what month it is. I don't even know what the date is. I know because it's on my computer, but like, if you asked me when I'm like eating lunch, I would not be able to tell you. Ugh, it's so good. I love this tea. It's my live stream tea. It's what I drink every time I live stream. It gets me in the mode. I'm out of the left tea. I really need a freaking whiteout at my house. I bet I have some somewhere, maybe in the couch. I don't do a lot of anymore, but I used to do like work at home, and so my couch was my hangout place. And now I live stream at home, so I have this little setup with my cool curtain behind me. Alright, I don't know if you have that, but you can pause me if you're not ready yet. So we're going to move on. Let's do 3 examples today. We're going to graph all of them. So we're going to graph, let's not start with that one. Let's start with y equals negative cosine of x plus pi over 2. Okay? I'm going to get my little graph ready. Again, if you have these ones at home to print off, they're on the Google Classroom. And then we go, boop. I don't know what I need here. There we go. I usually do 4. Other classes, by the way, what they'll do is they'll change the numbers here based on the period, which we don't have a change in period, but I can tell you what that is. I don't do that because I've never learned it that way or taught it that way. But if you're watching, like if you're watching from a different class, that's what they're doing, is they're changing these numbers. But I'm going to keep it as 2 pi, pi, and then pi over 4 and 3 pi over 4 for there and there. And negative pi over 2. Oop, not 4, 2. Goodness gracious. If you're using the ones that I give you from online, there's like 8 lines, so there's just middle ones. It's fine. You can just ignore them. They're helping you for later when we do more or less in one swoop. Okay, so automatically we can find some things. We know the amplitude. We can find the period. Why am I doing this? We can find the phase shift, which I usually call PS because I don't want to write phase shift every time that I'm writing this. And then midline. Okay, so my amplitude is 1. It's not -1, even though there's a negative in front. So I'm just going to remind myself that it's flipped over. I don't want to forget that. Can I flip it this way? Sure, but it won't change anything because it's cyclical. It repeats itself and it looks the same on both sides. So cosine, we're not going to flip it over that way. Sine, we're also not going to flip it over that way, but you technically could. All right. There is no value for b right here. Why am I not color coding? It's fine. It's okay. We'll color code maybe. My period, there is no b right here is where my value for b would be. And so my period is 2 pi, which means that I have 1 full cycle by the time I get to 2 pi. My phase shift says plus pi over 2, so we go left pi over 2, which means that I do 1 full cycle in 2 pi after the pi over 2 that I'm starting at, and I'll show you what that looks like. And the midline is just the x-axis, or we could say y equals 0. There's no change, basically. Midline is still the midline. One of your quiz questions might be just to fill out these parts, either based on an equation or a graph or both. Just saying. Just saying. Color code, yes, yes, ma'am. Let me hook you up. Pick 4 colors. Go. Don't do that. I don't care what colors. I got them. I gotta move this. Here, I'll pick one. I like this orangey color. Your turn. Blue, orange, pink. Okay. Blue, orange, pink. Let's throw in, that's not really blue. This one's more blue. Let's throw in this yellow one too, just in case, because there's 4 things we're finding. Oh, and purple. Okay, I'll put the yellow back. I'll make this one the orange. This works. It works. I have to put the thing back. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's color code, because I'm so glad I'm doing this live, because I probably wouldn't have color coded before I graphed it, so I'm glad you said something. Okay. Alright, so this number here is my A value, which is my amplitude. Now, I don't actually have a number, so it's 1, but I'm going to flip the graph over. This value here is my value for B. I don't have a value for B right here, but that gives me my period. So the period I do 2 pi divided by 1, which is 2 pi. That's supposed to be orange. It's like a goldy color. The orange is too dark, I think. I made like a cheat sheet for myself in the back of one of my notebooks. Sure. Also, my notes are everywhere. Okay. This number right here is my phase shift. And this one's opposites. That's what the minus is for. It tells me it's opposites. And then I don't have a value for k, but I'm going to color it purple up here, so that way when I later have one, I'll know it's the midline. Because there's nothing here, so I have the midline is normal, which is the x-axis. Is that too dark? Maybe. Let me lighten this up. Might be already way lit up. I don't know. Now that got a little better. Hey! Okay, so here's what we do. We start with the phase shift, because everything's going to get shifted. So what that means is that my y-axis basically moves over to where the phase shift is. I'm going to make one be like in the middle, because that way you can see it better. I know it's going to hurt some people. You're welcome. Okay, so we start with a phase shift. And then we know that cosine starts at 1 and goes down, but it's flipped over. So it starts at -1. I should do that pink. Why not? Of course, pink and blue together make purple, so somebody might get confused, but okay. Now, this goes for 2 pi, but I'm not going until 2 pi because it's shifted. So my period length, bottom to bottom in this case, goes for 2 pi long, which is that length. So what that means is my next bottom, that boy, no, is over here. 2 pi later. Not at 2 pi, because that also got shifted by pi over 2. Everything just got picked up and just moved a little bit, like this. But I'm still the same me. I just got moved over a little bit. This kind of forms our little box in my mind. Like I have a box here that makes the shape, and then I just copy paste the box. I wish that made sense to anybody other than me. Okay, so we know that, so cosine, remember, goes whoop. So I have to have I have 2 valleys. These are my valleys. I have to have a mountaintop. The mountaintop's going to be right in the middle. So right in the middle, boop, right here, that's going to be a mountaintop. Same amplitude, 1 up. I should color code the midline, because I'm a good person. Okay, so, and then between, so when I'm climbing a mountain, there's that part where I stop, because I'm tired. That's the middle. So in the middle, I'm at the middle. And in the middle here, I'm at this middle. So then this is my 5 dots that make that little peak. And then it goes up again, it goes up here, and then we make it curvy. Oop, that one didn't hit. It's fine. Okay. I'm just going to make this more obvious that it's the amplitude. There, I color coded with every color I used. Okay, so that was one without any period change. So we're going to do one with a period change, but I'm only going to do a period change and not a phase shift too. We're going to do one with just a period change. We've already done one with just a phase shift, and then we'll do one with both. And it will confuse nobody, because this isn't the hardest thing we've done so far. This girl is on fire. Alright, I'm going to move this down. Let's graph a sine function. Let's graph y equals -2 2. I'm going to make that positive 2. I don't want to confuse anybody. Sine of 4x minus 1. It's a W? It is a W. That's why I love these so much. Because I am Miss Willard. So good. Got that win. I'm going to make a bunch of W's soon. Right now, actually. Alright, and then I'm going to make my little graph. I just got to make sure I have some room underneath for the next one, too. Again, PS is phase shift, because I don't want to deal with writing out the word phase shift. I also don't really want to write out midline, but there's no shorter. You can do ML. I would know. Alright. Hey, you know 2 of these things from last time. So if you're watching this not live, pause it and see if you can what you can fill in over here, and then unpause it and see if you get it the same as me. Okay? So that way you can practice your stuff you already know. But those of you who are live, let's just do it. So my amplitude is right here. Don't worry about the +2. It's just because I changed my mind. So my amplitude is 2. Okay. You also should know from doing this earlier that this -1 is my midline. My midline is down at y equals -1. So then my highest height will be +1 and my lowest will be -3 because it's 2 up and 2 down from my midline. The phase shift, we have none. So it doesn't move left or right at all. And that's because there's no number like in here by the x. There's no plus or minus in parentheses with the x. That's the key, is that there's got to be parentheses. Because the -1's my phase shift. It's on the outside, technically. There's no outside to be worried about. It's just because it did sine of 4x, and it assumes that you know that 4x is part of the sine, but the -1's not. If it was, they would have parentheses around it. Alright, and then my period, gotta do some math for the period. That's the wrong color, it's yellow. Comes from this 4. So what that means, the 4 means that I'll have 4 cycles by the time I get to 2 pi. Which means that one singular period is 2 pi divided by 4, which is pi over 8. But how I like to think about it is that there's 4 of them by 4 pi, or by 2 pi. Oop. Oop. 4 of them. I still have this thing up, so I'm going to preface this. So my A value is 2, so it gets stretched out. My B value is 4. So see how there's more of them? And then my K went down 1. So I just swoop. Okay. And then I made this for a reason. This is 1 period. That's the pi over 2. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did that. This is pi over 2. Because 2 pi over 4 is not pi over 8. And then this is the 4 of them. Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Man, I am so glad I did that on here. Y'all don't judge me. Hopefully some of you yelled at me at home and asked me why that was pi over 8, because, girl, it's not. Okay, so I'm going to have the exact same graph set up, though. I'm going to go pi over 2 here, or sorry, 2 pi here. Ugh. Pi here. There's my middles. Okay. So I start with my midline because I need to drop everything down. I need to go down to -3, so I'm going to make it every other. So my midline's at -1. I always start with the phase shifts and the midlines. I don't give you, hold on. I totally give you one with both, it's fine. So I usually move my midline, I put my midline on the graph, and then I put my phase shift on the graph, and that's my 0, 0. Yeah, thank you. Pi over 8. Anyways. So, that's my midline. I did that. There's no phase shift, so it's still at 0, 0. I don't move the blue line at all. So I'll just put it on there for you. So I didn't phase shift at all. Okay, so this is a sine graph, and we know that sine starts at 0. Okay. Now, we need 4 total up, down, back for sine, up, down, back, up, down, back, up, down, back by the time we get to 2 pi. So let's break this down. I'll need 4 of them. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4. That works out fairly well. Does it always work out fairly well? Yes. I don't do pi's over 3 or anything weird like that. So those are my 4. Those are my 4 periods that happen by 2 pi. Because this, and then this is my period length, is the pi over 2. Okay, that's my period length. So I need to go from this one up 2 to 0, down 2, and then back up by this one right here. Okay, it's going to be kind of crazy, but we're going to do it. So in the middle of these two, it'll hit middle again. That's my breather, because I need to freaking breathe when I'm walking up a mountain. So between these two is my top. Between these two is my bottom. 2 up and 2 down. That's my height. Oh no! That wasn't pink. Ugh. It's fine, it's pink now. So here's my one little period. Isn't it so cute? Now we copy paste. We do it more. Up, down, up, middle, down. Up, middle, down. Up, middle, down. So there's my 4 from B. This is that yellow 4 right there. And then I just continue doing that. Ooh, this is going to be backwards. It's fine. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Up, down. Oop. Oh, that's kind of short. Up, middle, down. Okay, so there's my graph. There's my super rough sketch of my graph. Let's see, last time I made these like this. And then here, this is that one period that gets repeated 4 times. That's this section right here. Just like it was this section right here. Oops, I shifted it so it would actually have been this one. I'm gonna stop back highlighting. You know, chill. I poured myself water and I left it in the kitchen. It's fine. Do you have 4 of them between 0 and 2 pi? If so, then you're good. Just ate some tea. I don't know where you're at in my thing, so I'm going to start doing the next one, but I'll come back to that. Alright, last one. Let's graph y equals 4 bumps. We're good, yeah. Wait, because this is a bump in my mind. It has to be a bump, like a mountain and a valley. Because if you just go like 1, 2, 3, 4, that's different. Let me know. Drop your answers in the comments below. Alright, let's, I have sine written down, so I'll totally change that and go back to cosine. Okay. Yeah, so the whole period is a mountain and a valley. It's the, so that's probably why. You did sine of 2x instead of 4x. If you want, you can change this to say 2x and then just change this to be pi over pi, just pi. So that way you don't have to redo the whole graph. Because it's easier to change the numbers than it is to change the graph. Okay. Do you want to predict in your head what happens when I do a half here? So the half means I'm going to have half of one cycle between 0 and 2 pi. So my graph's going to, my graph's going to get like spread out more. So amplitude, period, phase shift. We'll just do ML for midline. Let me just get the laziest I possibly can. I'm so lazy that the dot from the S became part of the semicolon next to it. Okay, amplitude isn't here. It's 1. A heckin' smeared. Period does change. Just pre-smear it. Alright, so my period is, there's half of one period between 0 and 2 pi. But I go 2 pi over a half to figure that out, and 2 pi over half is really gross. So I'm just going to flip that fraction over and it actually becomes 4 pi. And if you don't know that, you can ask a calculator super nicely and it'll tell you that's 4 pi. Which makes sense, because at 2 pi, then there would be double that to make the whole whoop whoop. I do have a phase shift. We're going to go right by 2 pi. Then I'll have a midline change on this one. And I'm going right because it says minus. Like all of Algebra 2, it's backwards. And then I don't have anything over here, so that's why it's no midline change. Midline, oh, midline would just be the x-axis. There's still technically a midline. Oh, you know what I should do? Is if I'm not feeling like teaching, I just shouldn't teach yet. I should just put this off by like an hour and maybe take a nap. Because that's the 1000th mistake I've made so far on this one. But I can't stop class just because I'm not feeling it. So, guess we're just going to keep going. Alright, so that's my midline. My phase shift goes right by 2 pi. Which is like the entire thing, right? So we actually might have to do a little bit of backwards thinking to graph it in our minds. So here's my 2 pi. That's my starting position because of my phase shift. It says write 2 pi after it. P.S. Write 2 pi. But of course it's mirrored. Here. My pad of paper fell over. Now I zoomed out too much. You guys, it's fine. We're doing a great job. Okay. Amplitude's 1. So I'm just going to make this be 1 and negative 1. And now we have to figure out the period part. Okay. So this is a cosine graph. Cosine starts at the top. And it's going to go down this way and go back up again. But I don't really want to go this way because I have stuff over here. So let's think about the other half of it. If cosine normally goes like this, then the other half just goes. You know what is funny too is that I froze on absolutely the wrong part because it was like on my face and weird. We're catching up though. There we go. Okay, so let me recap. Cosine, top of the mountain, and then it comes down this way. But I can also come off the top of the mountain and slide down this way, and I'm going to do that because over here I don't have a graph. So we're going to do it on this side instead. Also, this is way too long of a lesson, and I apologize profusely. So this right here, actually, this all the way to here is my period length. Can I zoom out? Yeah. Because that looks like 4 pi to me. So we're going to go mountaintop. There's going to be another mountaintop like way over here. Why is that the highest height? What the heck am I doing? Alright, way over here. So I'm going to hit the bottom at the bottom down here. So I'm getting super stretched out. I'm doing half of the whole thing and before 2 pi. So we go whoop. And then we're going to go whoop. See how that got super stretched out? I don't know what to highlight there. So I got super stretched out. Let me do it on the thing too. Maybe that'll help. What do I got? 1 for A, half for B, negative 2 pi, and then no K value. Yeah, see how that's super stretched out? Can you go to Desmos and type this in and just do it like that? Absolutely. Can you do that on a test? I don't know. I'll have to decide. So maybe practice it by hand too. But if you go down here to radians, you can change your x-axis pretty easily. I keep zooming out, so that's why it's changing, but okay. I need to stop this because it's already 45 minutes of me talking to you, and that's not okay because I'm supposed to keep this under an hour total. So let me show you your homework. You can pause this here if you're not done yet. But here's your homework. I'm only giving you 3 to graph. So we graph 3 together. You're going to graph 3 on your own. And also, I was far too nice and didn't change the amplitude at all on these ones. Which maybe I should have done for myself too. I think that the notes today were harder than the homework is, which is probably good. Practice harder than you play. But I digress. I need to call this good so you can do this. Next time I'm giving you a review. I probably won't even do a video. I don't know what that's going to look like. And then you can review for 2 weeks. You can get caught up, and then you can tell me when you're ready for your quiz. If all else fails, on the 15th of June, I'm going to be dropping your quiz, and you can take it then. But you'll only technically have 5 days to do it because school's over on the 19th. And so if you want it early, please let me know. I'm ready for you. Maybe I'll even drop it early just to be nice in case you don't want to ask. So, I'm going to wait for just a little bit to see if Maya or Lauren have any questions, because you're watching live and might have questions. But I'm stressed out by it being too long of an episode here. So, yeah, they're called episodes. I decided. So, you're good if that's the end of your questions for me. Why does this look like this? My face is so small. Oh, it didn't work. There we go. All right. Anything on the chat? I think it's just Maya. Lauren might have left. Or the other way. Also, I'm so sorry that it froze. What a world. Okay. If not, I hope you have a beautiful week. I hope that it's sunny if you enjoy sun, or raining if you enjoy rain. And I hope that you got through this with me together. I got you. Alright. Yes, I can absolutely do that. I will email anybody the homework that asks. My asking for a little bit early, which is totally good. Yeah, I can do that. I got you, Maya. Alright. Have a good day. Bye.